5 years ago, when I purchased my first DSLR, it was a Nikon D3300. This exact camera. Was my first camera. So it came with a kit lens, which was an 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens, and it had a variable aperture of 3.5 to 5.6. While the focal length was fairly common and a great starter, the limits of a variable aperture lens soon became noticeable. So what is the difference between a fixed aperture lens and a variable aperture lens in a zoom lens? That is what we're discussing in this episode. Welcome. My name is Jonathan of photolaunchers.com, and today we have more practical lessons for you, and we are looking at optics, lenses specifically. And today we are looking at the difference between a variable aperture lens and a fixed aperture lens and their effects. And before we start, most of us are watching this channel and have not yet subscribed to the channel. It really means a lot when we see you guys subscribe to our channel. It shows us great support, and it gives us the energy to continue creating this video for us. So if you have not subscribed, it's time for you to click on the red subscribe button so that you can give us that huge support that we need from you. For those who have subscribed, we are grateful, and we would love to keep bringing great photography and film content to you, and we would like you to continue sharing the photography love with us, and we thank you so much. So to start with, do you know how to check the aperture of a lens when you get hold of one? How do you know it's an f4 or an f2.8 or an f1.8, etc., etc.? So for those who don't know, let me show you how you look at it. The lens has many labels on its body, and we might not get into explaining each one of them today, but let me show you how you tell the aperture of a lens. Among the many labels a lens can have depending on the manufacturer, whether it's Nikon, Canon, Sigma, Tamron, etc., there is a label that is in the form of a ratio, e.g. a 1.4 or a 1:2.8 or 1:3.5 to 5.6. That is what tells you the aperture of the lens. The 1:4 tells you that the lens opens widest at f4. 1:2.8 tells you that the lens opens widest at 2.8. However, those numbers don't just tell us how wide the lens opens. They clarify to us whether the lens is a fixed aperture lens or it's a variable aperture lens. Let's start with a variable aperture lens. A variable aperture lens means that the aperture changes in size when you change the focal length of the lens. You can tell this by the label of the aperture, and it will be like 1:3.5 to 5.6 or 1:4 to 6.5. And for my example, I have a variable aperture lens which is 28 to 70, 3.5 to 5.6. So why is this a big deal? Let's find out. When using a variable aperture lens, the aperture changes depending on which focal length you are in. As we take an example of the 28 to 70 Sony lens that I am using right now, at 28 millimeter, which is the wide open, the lens can open wide at 3.5. However, when you zoom into 70 millimeter, it can no longer open at 3.5. The widest it can open is 5.6. That means that when you change the focal length, the aperture also changes. So because of the change in the focal length, it leads to the change of exposure of the picture. So when using that kind of lens, when you zoom out, the image is well exposed, but when you zoom in, the aperture changes and closes, and so the image becomes underexposed. Let me give you an example. If you take a picture of a person with this lens at 28 millimeter and another picture of the same person at 70 millimeter, they will have different in exposures due to the change in aperture. The picture at 28 millimeter will be brighter than the picture at 70 millimeter. Although these lenses are cheap and very affordable, when you get more professional, you will notice that this will pose a great challenge to your work, and so you will finally shift to the fixed aperture lenses. So, what are these fixed aperture lenses? Fixed aperture lenses are lenses whose label are 1, for example, 1:4, 1:2.8. What this means is that the aperture stays constant on all the focal length, whether you zoom in or you zoom out. With a fixed aperture lens, the aperture functions independently from the focal length of the lens, meaning whether you are you are zoomed in or you are zoomed out, your aperture stays constant until you adjust it. I can photograph someone right next to me or 50 feet away and get the same exposure levels. My aperture won't change automatically when the focal length increases to bring the subject closer. Instead, I'll have complete control over it, no matter if it's set at a wider angle, which is zoomed out, or full telephoto, which is zoomed in. The question is, which is the best lens to use? If you're talking mechanics and technology, fixed focal lengths will provide a sharper photograph, but they are much more expensive. They are heavier, making them more difficult to travel with or carry around for a long period of time. There is no global best option here. It's really what's best for your situation. If you photograph a lot of dark environments, being able to open an aperture to f2.8 or even more is more definitely a benefit. That fixed aperture will come so in handy. Likewise, if you are trying to narrow down your travel kit to one body and one lens, a variable aperture lens might give you an option, and that can let you capture a wide array of situations. Remember, most kit lenses are cost and quality cutters. Hope that was helpful. However, if you're looking for a more professional option, if you have a budget for a good lens, I would suggest that you go for the fixed aperture lenses. You can get the 24-70 f2.8 or f4, the 24-105 f4. You can get the 70-200 2.8. All those are fixed aperture lenses. They are a bit more expensive, but for more professional places, like for example when I'm shooting weddings and you are shifting from indoor to outdoor, or you're zooming in and out to get more and more different shots, the change of aperture is really an issue for me. So I go for the option of getting the fixed aperture lenses. I own the 24-105 f4, I own the 70-200 2.8, I own the 24-70 f4, and so all those lenses are fixed aperture lenses because for my kind of work, I find that the fixed aperture lenses help me get better results for my photograph. And also it's a nuisance when I get one picture is underexposed than the other and yet it's the same lens. So for you, if you're looking for budget and you're looking for one lens that you can carry, maybe, and you are looking for a smaller budget, these variable aperture lenses like this 28-70 3.5 5.6 is a great lens. This lens is crispy, yes, but then the fact that it changes aperture is not a good for me, but it can be good for you. So you can get these lenses at around 30,000, 25,000, 40,000, because the fixed aperture lenses are costly. They can cost more than 80,000 to 200,000 shillings. So I would like to know the kind of lenses that you are using as a photographer. If then you have understood the difference between a variable aperture lens and a fixed aperture lens, put in the comment section below which lenses that you use and whether they are fixed aperture lenses or they are variable aperture lenses. Also, you can take a picture of your lens and tag us on our Instagram page at the Photo Loungers. Make sure that you go look at your lenses. Make sure that if you want to buy a professional lens, go for the fixed aperture lenses. If you are looking for a more budget-friendly lens, these variable aperture lenses are the way to go until you are able to get more professional lenses. They get the job done. For around 3 years I have used variable aperture lenses before I could afford fixed aperture lenses. So hope this lesson was helpful to you, and for just exercise purposes, I know you are a photographer, you have a camera, you have a lens. So for the sake of engagement and for us to have a session for engagement, just put in the comment section below which lens you are using and whether it's a fixed aperture lens or a variable aperture lens. And also you can tell us which lens would you want to buy and what the reason you want to buy it. And also you can take a picture of your lens or the camera with the lens you are using it and then post it on your Instagram and then tag us at the Photo Loungers, and we're able to see it and so see that we are really growing as a photographer. However, if you are looking for a lens that is professional and you have the budget for it, I would recommend the fixed aperture lenses. However, if you have a budgetary constraint or you have a small budget, the variable aperture lenses are the way to go, or are a way to go until you can afford the fixed aperture lenses. They do the job very, very well. Hope that was helpful and was a great lesson. Hope that lesson was helpful. We had a good time explaining the difference between a fixed aperture lens and a variable aperture lens. You can share this video with your friend or a fellow photographer who would learn from this video. It will really mean a lot to them and also to us. So we have decided to have more practical episodes in our channel, and so from the beginning of 2021 this channel will have so much to learn from, including practicals and job shadows. And so make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Also remember to subscribe if you have not yet already subscribed. If you have watched us for more than 1 time, 2 times, 3 times and have not subscribed, it will really mean a lot of us. Subscribe and be part of this community that we are trying to create here of photographers. And so thank you for being with us today. It's great to have taught you about fixed aperture lenses. Our next lenses are about zoom, prime, standard lenses, and we have a great lesson talking about lenses. All you need to do is subscribe, and so that you can get notified every time we release a new video. And if you have any further questions, please put in the comment section below or send us a direct message at the Photo Loungers. The handle is right here below and also in the description below. So, and until next time, keep learning, practicing and creating, because that is our motto. Peace.